Hello friends, how are you? Bonjour les amis, comment ça va? आदाब, सलाम, नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल. कैसे हैं आप लोग? Today's video is about ETFs. So there are two types of ETFs in the market. One is simple ETF like Index ETF, and the other one is a newer version of ETF which is known as covered call option ETFs. So I'm going to explain you what is the difference between these two ETFs and what could be your choice. Should you invest your money into a covered call option ETFs or an index ETF? In Canada, Bank of Montreal is a leading provider of ETFs, or what we call it exchange traded funds. They offer both types of ETFs, covered call option ETF and index ETF. So for the sake of comparison, I compared the performance of their two ETFs, and both are the ETFs funds they invest into commercial banks, in Canadian commercial banks. So I just compared what is the performance of their index ETF, which is not a covered call, and how much income that ETF generates over every year, and also I looked at their growth rate. At the same time, I looked into the other ETF that also by Bank of Montreal. It also invests into Canadian banks. But what the fund manager does, he writes call options and then generate extra premium on that securities that are bought by the fund. So I also looked into the performance in terms of growth rate and income generated by the other covered call ETF. Its symbol is ZWB, and the index fund, which is not a covered call, its symbol is Z. Okay, now let's compare the two different types of ETFs. There are two ETFs. One is ZEB, which is Bank of Montreal's Banks Index ETF, means the fund money is being invested on Canadian banks. This line you can see is the black line. And then the other ETF is covered call ETF ZWB, this red line. This is the same fund money is being invested on Canadian banks, but the fund manager is writing covered call options. So as you can see, growth of index ETF ZEB is much higher than the covered call ETF growth. And the reason behind it is simple, that ETF, which is covered call option ETF, has less tendency to grow, but it does provide more income. So let's see how much income difference we get. As you can see from this slide, this red line is the same ZWB, and it provides you higher income, much higher than index ETF, which is ZEB. So now you can see throughout the time period of the 5 years period, income coming from covered call ETF is higher than the index ETF. And the reason behind is that when the funds manager, he writes the call options, there's some extra premium that the fund manager generates. And that premium is additional income that the shareholder of the ETF fund receive. So let's summarize uh, these two slides in a simple way. So in simple words, what you have to understand is that if I have invested $10,000 on banks index ETF ZEB in the form of dividends over 5 years, I would have made $2,470. However, if the same $10,000 was invested into ZWB, which is covered call option ETFs, same holdings, Canadian banks, I would have received $3,300 in the form of dividend payments over 5 years. So I make around about $800 extra in terms of income over 5 years. However,
if you compare the growth, that $10,000 we invested into ZEB, then that 10,000 would have been 14,620 by now, like in 5 years. But ZWB, which is a covered call, has less tendency to grow because of the covered call options. That 10,000 would have grown to 12,170. So ZEB would have given you an equity gain of 4,620, but covered call option ETF ZWB would have given you $2,170 more on top of your 10,000 investment. So it all depends what you want to do. Is your income, are you income loving person or you are growth loving person? It depends on your situation. If you are young, definitely you will go for growth. If you are a retired person, you would prefer to have higher income now.
So hope you like this video, and if you have any questions, write them into the comments box. And if you like want to know more about investments and where to invest, how to go with the stocks, what kind of stocks are good for you, I have prepared many other videos. You can subscribe to my channel and have access to those videos, or also you can just go to the description box and click on the links that I have provided. So we'll see you next time. Bye bye.